Welcome back to BODW 2022, and my name is Sarika. And now we will continue with a keynote session, Communal Space and Impactful Design, featuring Ms. Nikki Gonnessen and Mr. Thomas Wildershoven, founder of the Dutch multidisciplinary design studio, Tonic. And our moderator of this session will be Mr. Jonathan Cummings, President APAC of Lander & Fitch. Let's welcome them on stage.
Hello and welcome back, and welcome to this special keynote session to finish off the, as part of the morning session of this 20th anniversary of Business of Design Week. Already, as we had the opening sessions last night and the opening sessions this morning, I think everybody at home, everybody in the audience, the conversation is buzzing with ideas, with thoughts, with how design really can make a positive impact in the world and make a change. It's a privilege for me to continue being a strategic partner for Business of Design Week, as we have at Lander & Fitch for a while, and it's a privilege for me to be here in person after a couple of years of being moderating sessions like this online, which has extended our audience and extended the reach of BODW. But there's nothing better than being here in person, and so thank you, Thomas and Nikki, for flying in for this event, and to your counterparts at Create Netherlands for being a strategic partner of BODW this week. Thomas is going to take us through his kind of keynote thoughts around the subject area, and then we'll kind of get into a Q&A. And I have questions, but hopefully, and I'm sure you will all have questions here in the audience, so please do put your hand up for those. But also for those of you that are online, fire your questions in and they'll come through to me here, and we'll be able to get the discussion going with Nikki and Thomas. But for now, Thomas, welcome, and over to you.
Thank you, and thank you for having us. We're really happy to be here and to be here live, as you say. So Tonic started as, I have to really get used to what I see and what I do not see, sorry. Okay, so Tonic is Thomas and Nikki. It started 30 years ago, and today I want to talk about design connecting worlds. So in our studio, first of all, if you want to connect, you have to start where you are, and we are in Amsterdam. And in Amsterdam, we have our studio, which connects generations, cultures, and disciplines. But also, in Amsterdam, we connected to the city in a very specific way. We changed the city because we added a building. We added our own studio, and the studio is a manifesto of our design philosophy. We think that if you give creatives the chance to develop their own property, then you will get a much more quality in the city and a much bigger diversity. So with this plan, we went to the city government and we really tried to change the policy so that this becomes more possible. Because for us, it was a huge effort to get this far. It took us 12 years, and it should be more easy to do so. So that is why we made this gem in the city to tell that story. In Amsterdam, we work for a festival that's very dear to us. It's the Holland Festival, and it's a festival that was started after the World War, the Second World War, and the idea was that if cultures exchange, we will never have war again. And I think 70 years later, this idea is still valid. So we're really happy to work for this Holland Festival, and for them, we made a typeface where we sort of combine literatures and stencil letters, so that whatever we do, it will always be recognizable, so that we can give each edition a new identity, to give it this spark of festive, always new, always now idea. So we made this very large typeface with a lot of literatures. We added a lot of color because we could add color because we had this strong graphic language. And then we put it into the city, because also if you don't go to the festival, we feel that the city should feel that there is a cultural happening going on, so that we should share it with everybody. And we made huge graphics. Every year there's a new theme, and as I said, in our studio, generations work together. So when an intern came to us with a coding that was able to make a sort of lava lamp of moving images, we immediately implemented it in that year's edition, which was about 70 years of Holland Festival. So we needed something festive. So this is coding by a 23-year-old who come to our studio. He's now working 6 years in our studio. He stayed on, of course. He's a talent. But you can see that we have an open field where people can really add to every project. And a year later, this is how the coding works. I'll flip to that. This is how it works in the city. A year later, it was about borders, and it was the time of Trump, and Trump wanted to build a wall, and we wanted to get rid of the wall. So we made a graphics that built walls, but also demolishes walls. And from there, we actually made sort of motion first, and then we went to posters. So we tried to make a mix between screens and reality. And from this motion graphics, of course, there were also motion graphics in the streets, but there were also posters in the streets and trams in the streets. So we link the real world with the online world, with the screen world. And that brought us actually to Seoul, because Seoul had seen in Seoul, Hyundai department store had seen these big visuals in the city, and they also had a department store, and they asked us to do something with that. And it was in Dangdaemun, in the center. And in that center, there is a lot of department stores with a lot of neon lights. But when we came there, we saw that there was also a very old gate, a traditional gate. And under the gate, you see a dark, overhanging roof. And under the roof, you see very vibrant colors. So for us, coming from abroad, we were so open to this that we saw something that Koreans had not seen, that there is such a link between their heritage and what they're doing now. So we could combine the two color schemes into a very specific color scheme for Hyundai. So we changed the logo that you see on the left with the dark green and pink, and we made it much more vibrant and also much more fluid. You can change the colors easily. And we put it on the facade, and it's sort of a ladder, and the elevator is behind it, so something is happening even. There's always something happening, and we made an opening campaign that said open, because if we're open, we see more and we can do more. But it's not so much to get more sales, but it's to celebrate the space in front of the building, which is a public domain space, and that is so rare in that area, that there is so much space where you can be. So opening was the campaign, and then from Seoul, the funny thing is, we went back, having learned so much about color in Seoul, and we went back to our clients in the Holland Festival, and they saw the shopping bags that we had made for Seoul. They said, we want that. So first the Holland Festival took us to Seoul, and then Holland Festival wanted what we did in Seoul, or got inspired by it. They would never get the same, of course, but it was an inspiration. And that year was about diversity and identity, the theme. And so we added a lot of new weights to the typeface, and we put them all together. Let the computer make color schemes with these layers. The layers react on each other, and they make color schemes. And then in those color schemes, we sort of found a face. Since it was about identity, we thought that was really fitting that theme and that year. And now we see colors being produced by the computer, and on screen they look, I think, great. But the thing is that when you bring them back to the city, you have a lot of problems translating these colors back to print. So here we sort of combined vinyls in one color with full color strips to get the same color effect. But on the posters, it was even worse. We had to add 6 colors, 4 of which are fluorescent, to get sort of that same vibe that we were having online. And then when we went to Hong Kong from there, we took that lesson and we brought it here to the M+, because we also felt that M+ should be vibrant in the streets, and it should be, of course, screen-based first, because M+ has this huge screen looking at Central. So it should be screen-based first, but we also knew that we would have to implement it in all kinds of places where there would be print. And for instance, in the shop, we also wanted to cater to the Asian sense of quality, which always is a sort of lighter tone and a softer colors and a sort of more gray elements. And also the building is very gray, so it should work with that as well. So we made a funny color scheme where everything is sort of mid-tone. And that means that there is no red in it because that's a quite dark color, but there is orange in it, and there is no light yellow in it because that's too light. So it's all kinds of mid-tones. They can go from gray to strong orange to strong green. So when we made the opening campaign, we really showed it in the city as a very vibrant color scheme. But if we use it in other situations, we can react on the art, or we can react on the situation and the context, or we can react on the medium. So here it's on the screen, and then here it's the opening campaign in the city. Because for us it's really important that culture is, I think culture is something that we share, and that is something that should be out there and that we should all see. So here you see it in the shop, and in the, if I go back one, sorry, in the shop you can see that the grays come in and that it really becomes tasteful, the same color scheme. And here, of course, in this, it's yeah. Online, of course, it works as well because the white is readable in it, but also the black is readable in it. And here you can see that on the posters, the colors react on the artwork. So, of course, now we have Kusama. And Kusama is yellow and black, but that's the artwork, so that's okay. And on it, we use then two tones of gray for the typography. The typography follows the idea of the building, which is a sort of upside-down T. So we have most of the time vertical Chinese and horizontal English. And that goes very well with the tradition in Hong Kong, because unlike mainland China, a lot of the typography in Hong Kong is vertical. And from Hong Kong, we go to Shenzhen. There we are going to work, or we are working, and this is a sneak preview for the International School of Design. So if you want to talk about design and change, you have to look at education. And education has changed enormously. So as we have in our studio, we learn from our interns. Also in schools, it's not any longer that generations learn from old generations learn to the young, but actually the young know a lot of things better than the older people. So the only thing that you can do in education is collaborate. So it should be an intergenerational collaboration. And what we really like about this school is that it's a mix of a Western approach of design education and an Eastern one. So it's a place where East meets West. This is the school campus. And this is the cities that bring together the... Oh, it's not working. Oh. These are beautiful motion graphics. Believe me, they will be online soon. But these are sneak previews, so I got to work my way around it. Oh, everything stops. My click. Okay. So what we sort of liked about this project also is that often we not only collaborate within our studio, but we also collaborate with our clients. And in this case, it was very literal because we could not really get the colors right. So in the end, what we did is we made a workshop online with the client, and together we developed the color scheme. So these are the colors that we sort of proposed in the beginning, and this is the color workshop, and this is sort of the final color set.
Nog een halve minuut.
I think I'm, well, whatever. I mean, well, what do you think? I can add one more thing at the moment in Shenzhen, because I hope also people from Shenzhen are watching. There is a really nice exhibition called Flow, and it's all about motion graphics. It brings together 30 international motion graphics from Asia, Europe, and America. And it all, yeah, to be watched, I would say.
And for those, as you say, who are in Shenzhen, then get yourself down to OCT Loft. I think I saw there as that flashed up. That's
OCT Loft,
where that is.
Yeah.
Thank you, Thomas. Right on time, and you know, it's a fascinating projects. And you know, as you kind of walked through them, and you know, when we talk about design for change, you can kind of see a lot of impact coming out of that. One word that you used throughout there, and actually, Nikki, listening to you on the panel last night as well, that you used was this word collaboration. And you know, what I loved as you were talking through there, whether it was in Korea or in Shenzhen or within your own studio with people of different generations, there was this constant theme of collaboration. So if we kind of go back to sort of design for change, having that positive impact, having making sure that our work has that desired impact. Can you just maybe expand a little bit more on what you've learned, I suppose, or what the secrets to success in collaboration are? Because I think you touched on multidisciplinary, you touched on multicultural, you touched on working with our clients, with clients and with businesses. What are the kind of critical parts to a successful collaboration?
Well, I think as Nikki also said yesterday, is that we should be aware that design should not only cater to economic values, but also to human values. And if you mimic the human values that you're looking for in the way you work, then I think you're really 2 steps ahead. So if collaboration is sort of a true human value, that we're non-hierarchical, that of course you have experts. There's nothing wrong with experts. They bring to the table a lot, but users bring to the table a lot too. And new ideas or naive people bring to the table also a lot. So if you're able to be open to that discussion and open to a dialogue, you're actually mimicking the human values that they should be at the basis of design for the future and design for change. And that is why it's so important. So it's not just a word, it's really connected to core values.
Yeah, and quite a sort of dynamic, ever-evolving, organic processes as well. And and I love particularly the kind of cultural nuances that I think you said yourself in your presentation, you're in Korea, things that you saw because you're coming in from outside.
Exactly.
That it's very natural and normal to Koreans that they might not have seen, and you'd be able to kind of unlock that a little bit. So those kind of and from Shenzhen to Korea to Amsterdam, those, Nikki, I mean those cultural connections in your work, I mean, you've clearly, as you've travelled the world, your work has taken you around the world. What are the big positives really that you've taken in your own career as a designer, from having that opportunity to work across the world?
Well, like we say all the time, it bridges everything. I mean, our lives is about connecting. We share everything together. We saw at COVID how difficult it is to not be together. And we learn so much from each other all the time. So I'm so happy that I was in the opportunity to travel that much and to meet so many people around the world and touch upon their cultures and work with them also. It's not only because then you learn so much, but it also has its counter side, of course, because of globalization, people are not all connected anymore. So we are lucky we could travel, but of course there are also there is a difficulty going on in that sense as well.
It is, and I think something that I'm very conscious of in the work that we do, particularly being based here in Asia, where you've got such diversity and richness of kind of cultures and insights and inputs that kind of go into things, that as the world, and if we just pause, park the last 3 years, but as the world was kind of becoming more connected, and this danger that we would start to lose some of those cultural nuances, that we would start to kind of, everything would start to kind of merge into itself. And I think that's something that I've always been very conscious that we need to, work hard as designers. And we're talking about communal spaces, we talk about kind of cultural impact and things, that that it's so important that we're really embracing and furthering the local nuances within each of the work as well. And that seems to be something that you've, again, sort of picked up on within your work.
Yeah, well, we're definitely from Amsterdam, so we react to that a lot. And then Nikki was born there, I was not, so she even knows better. But the normal people from Amsterdam are not born in Amsterdam, of course. It's a migrant city. But no, the global and the local, they have to merge somehow. But as Nikki also said, a lot of people also feel alienated or feel a loser from globalization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's so complex, and the world is getting so divided, and that's why it's so important to also keep on a smaller scale connecting all the time.
Yes.
And also what you said, that it's important that what we all do now, that there is this online, that we connect online and in real life. So the connection of the two is something we learned through COVID as well. So there's really, we won something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I think, we're just sort of talking about that impact of online, and from a collaboration point of view, there's not been a lot of positives that came out of the last 3 years, 2.5, 3 years of COVID, but that ability to kind of work more seamlessly with people all over the world and kind of connect and has really, certainly within our business, has had a huge benefit. Talking of the last 3 years, I meant to say early on, actually, thank you on behalf of all Hong Kongers for brightening up our city, and work that we have almost had, the residents of Hong Kong had exclusive access to for the last couple of years now, as borders are opening. Hopefully the rest of the world can come back to Hong Kong and visit M+ as well. But I think this place M+, your contribution to that has really inspired a lot of young creatives, designers, artists, architects, and so on and so forth. And I just wanted to really kind of ask you, because I know that within your business, and you mentioned it as well, currently obviously with Shenzhen, but historically all through your time in Amsterdam, that the role of young talent, the role of again them bring young people coming in, bringing their ideas, their thoughts, to make that contribution to design that can have a positive impact. And if I can just ask you, maybe just expand a little bit more on that kind of philosophy that you've had within the way that you operate, the way that you run the business.
Yeah, well, the young people are in their time. So, better than that is not possible. So they know, because they are, you see it in schools, you see it around us. So can you,
well,
Thomas?
Also the values they express,
and
the media they master, make them, I think, one of the most valuable assets that we have in the world. And I think we should always look at that way at young people, because they are the new force. It's their world. But somehow older people tend to think it's their world sometimes. So it needs to be said over and over again. And also it needs to be proven. So we have to have a situation where Nikki and I are not the boss of the studio, but that it is a non-hierarchical situation. And of course, if a decision has to be made, it's made somewhere. It is not that it's chaotic, but it is open. And everybody can bring something to the table. So if young people bring new values to the table and new concerns about the world, and also when they express new anxieties because of the social media, because that's the up part of social media is everybody can have a medium. That's the great thing. But it also means that everybody's on stage. And that also brings fears. So that's also a thing that comes in those discussions and that we can relate to. And there we see also a new role for art, because if you go to Kusama and you have felt this fear of being on a stage on social media as a 16-year-old girl, and you feel a little bit troubled by it, and you see Kusama and her troubled life and her troubled mind, and you see what she brings to the world in love and beauty and expression, then that really helps you, I think, through that phase, as it did me. It still does. It still does. So bridging these worlds, I think, helps everybody. I mean, looking at a 93-year-old artist from Japan helps young people, as young people help us to understand better what we're doing and where we're going.
And we know that the generation we're talking about, the kind of Generation Alpha almost kind of coming through, Generation Z, maybe sort of tail end of those. The people are coming into the business now. There's a heightened desire to have impact. There's a heightened awareness of the challenges in the world, which is great, as you say, and we can learn from that. But they're also, maybe arguably in a hurry. To have that impact in a hurry, to kind of move on and get stuff done. And I imagine that we have many young designers, either the back end of their studies or recently into business now. So if there was, Nikki, a kind of a word of advice for the young designers, kind of out there in the audience now, or their employers who are kind of taking them on, in terms of getting that balance right so that they can maximize their impact, what would that be?
Trust your own ideas, trust your talent, and look for other people close to you and to the subjects you really engage to. So keep close to yourself, and if you feel there is something you want to address, do it and go out there and talk to people about it, because you are the future. And it's not about us anymore. I think we, as older people, should be, we have to facilitate, and they stand on our shoulders. Perhaps we fucked up, but now they feel the strength, the burden on their shoulders. And we just have to help them to have a good future.
Yeah.
So it's our responsibility to, it's their responsibility to address things, and they do, because they're so conscious. They're addressing social issues. They're experimenting with new materials, with sustainability. They are looking for new values, for a livable future. They come in smaller groups. So we see those things happening in our country, for instance, very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because they're fed up with the economic system, they're sort of like, they want other things in life.
Well, yeah, and we've almost sort of
And we are responsible to give that to them. Sorry.
No, you're right. I mean, you're right.
I really feel that.
I agree with you entirely. And something, as an older person, I'm very conscious and sometimes a bit embarrassed of my generation and the previous generation for not for setting this up. And
that's true.
Kind of preempted a question. Thank you for somebody who sent this in. But it's kind of along the same lines. How should we prepare the next generation of designers to cope with these upcoming global challenges? I mean, I'm not sure they're upcoming global challenges. I think they're here right now. But whether that's ESG-related social behaviours, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And you've answered a lot of that question, really. But in terms of trust and trusting themselves and their passion. But we all read the news day in, day out, and just see doom and gloom.
Yeah.
How do we inject, I suppose, if I rephrase this question, that positivity that we're talking about design for change, but change can happen. That they can have a positive impact. They can make the world better.
Yeah. Well, designers are optimists, even if they're naive about it, because otherwise you cannot design. Because you need something to make something. You need to have the feeling that it will help something.
Yeah.
So
so they have to keep the optimism. Humor is very important to keep things light as well.
And take your, as Nikki said, take your engagement serious.
Yeah.
That's a force. So don't be a slave of economy. I mean, of course, you need an economic sound situation somehow, but if it can spring from engagement, you're 4 or 5 steps ahead.
Yeah. And in terms of designers of any age, really, us as an industry, us as practitioners, measuring the impact, measuring the impact of what we do. Any particular thoughts on qualitative, quantitative? Again, young people kind of they're in particular are hungry for impact. How best can they measure their progress, the positive change that they're making?
Well, the whole measure culture is, I think, data help us a lot. I mean, it's good to measure things. So I'm not against data, but it's also again has its counter side, because with data, you don't feel that there is this, emotion, passion, sort of, that you can feel that you don't have to hurry. Somebody else said that today. Or yesterday it was, why do we hurry so much? Sometimes you need just some time to think about things, to experiment, to let it go. And the whole culture of measuring and data makes that really difficult. So I do think it's important, but how? It's also a question for us all. How can we work with both of them? How can we change the system in that way that there is space for emotion, things that really goes to your heart, but that we also can use the technology and the data we have for use it in a good way. Yeah. Well, I think I made my point.
Fantastic and great insights. And Thomas, in 20 seconds, you're here in Hong Kong, for the first time in a while. What's next for you guys?
Oh, what's next? Oh my God. Well, I don't know.
Well, we hope we can still work and connect with East and West.
Yeah.
And that the whole world stays connected in a positive way.
Great.
And that it's about human and people.
Yeah.
Because that's also, and cities, but also landscapes. And that, you know, that architecture, design, and our profession, visual communication, is sort of mixing and coming together in that sense.
And as we said, you know, design connects worlds.
Yeah.
Nikki, Thomas, thank you very much. That was incredibly insightful. It's gone very fast the time. I hope everybody took a lot away from that. But thank you again for being here live and present in Hong Kong.
Thank you. It was an honor. Thank you to be here.
Thank you very much, our guests and moderators, for showing that great design can make a difference on all fronts and drive profound change. So we have concluded the morning sessions of today, and the summit will continue with an afternoon session that starts at 2 p.m. More industries leaders will shed light on how they leverage the power of design to push boundaries in the fields of art, wellness, and hospitality, and more. So thanks for watching, and see you then.
The 14th Five-Year Plan enhances Hong Kong as a regional intellectual property trading hub. Hong Kong has a sound legal system, top professional services, and robust intellectual property protection, bringing business opportunities to all. The Intellectual Property Department offers upgraded training courses to establish the expertise of managers in enterprises and enhance competitiveness while providing a free legal consultation service. For details, visit ip.gov.hk.
煲緊機啦！我買咗好多正嘢俾老公嘅，係正版遊戲嚟㗎。買俾自己嘅手錶 ，Mask 都係正版貨嚟㗎。我點揀正嘢？你睇，認住呢個正版正貨標誌，買嘢就開心又放心。標誌有效1年，年年更新，信得過。所有正版正貨承諾商戶名單，呢個 app 有晒，連網店都有，係咪好正呢？